that's been kicked in the nuts by fake news. Nobody knows what to believe.
I don't know what I said.
We need one maverick newsman to cut through all the noise and tell us what's really real.
I'm not that guy. What up? What up? What up? Welcome back to Really Real with Richie Redding, episode dose. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for all the people that watched last week, and especially to all the people that sent me private messages and texts and DMs saying how much they like it. I can't emphasize enough how meaningless those messages are. What are you doing? Why are you sending me share the fucking thing? Did I already get us demonetized? I think I just demonetized it. Or give us some kind of engagement. I'm trying to build this thing from the ground. My career is in the shitter. All right, I have 123 subscribers on YouTube. I've been doing comedy my whole life. You motherfuckers, I need you to tell somebody other than me that I'm funny. I know I'm funny. I've been trying to convince other people of this for a very long time. Right? I don't have enough friends. Tell your friends, you cocksuckers. So thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate that. What's up, Bobby? How you doing, man?
I'm good, buddy. Kind words,
Good.
thoughts, and prayers, all the same to me.
Absolutely. Glad to see that you made it back from Canada, even though you look like John Walker Lynn, the American Taliban. That beard absolutely should not be led across any border on the way back in.
The sheer amount of American pride I was beaming with as I came back into our country, they knew who I was. They were like, you belong here. Do you have anything to declare? I was like, yeah, declare I'm proud to be an American, or at least here we're free.
Yeah. Canada famously hates us for our freedoms.
Yeah, he was like, how about weed? I meant, do you have any weed? I was like, oh, yeah, but no, I don't have any of that.
Yeah, that is weird. Can you bring weed back if you're going into a state that's legal?
Legally, no. However, They weren't too thorough in searching my carry-ons.
Right. Well, I mean, the move is to get edibles, right? If you can eat it, you can beat it.
That's true. That, or even just vape carts. Like, they
don't
care.
Oh, you can fuck around, be the next Brittany Grenier, dude.
Griner,
whatever her name is.
Free Brittany. If I could dunk, hopefully they get me back in twice the time. I
would bet against you dunking, sir. But dude, your beard actually reminded me just when we were about to start that I had the notion that nobody could. So I saw a female to male trans man that looked somewhat like me over the weekend, but I could never be mistaken as trans because they all have a better beard than I do. Day one, every one of these dudes, Chaz Bono, every one of them starts off day one with this sweet beard that I am just incapable of growing in. But
one of the meanest comments I ever read about me on Reddit was Bobby has a trans man's beard, and it was 3 a.m. and I laughed out loud in my bed. I was like, that's so spot on and funny.
No way. They don't get bushy like that. It's always kind of a villain beard. Yeah, it's like the pipe cleaner all around. I can't do shit, dude. I let it go for a month. I just get the corners real good. I look like a 13-year-old Mexican girl. But so I want to, before we get into, I do have I think a good episode for you. I might be a Gen X ranting my ass off here, but I had an awesome weekend, and this past Friday I did well over an hour at this bar. It's called Holy City Public House. That Bobby, the next one we do there, I'm going to have you come down with me. But it's in Gloucester City, New Jersey, where I know I've got a few guys are watching the pod that are from there, and next to Philly, it is somehow the spiritual home of my comedy. That it's really a hard town to describe. It's right next to Camden, and it's this little blue collar throwdown, scrappy ass like white urban city that like I don't know of anything like it other than like a Pittsburgh or like outside of Detroit type of shit. But it was the perfect example of it. That I had Gordon Baker Bone with me, and we stopped at this cigar lounge before, and we're cutting it up with all these guys, and it happened to be a black cigar lounge, and Gordon told this guy we're doing a show, and he like comes back and he like double checks where he's like, "Yo, what city did you say it was?" And he tells him, and this dude stands up. He's like, "Yo, bro," and then like I turn the corner. He's like, "Oh, you're with him? Okay, you'll be fine." Like that's the reputation that this place has, and it's like the best way. So they're just so incredibly fucking like unoffendable, which is why I've always had fun there. That the a way that I would always explain it to black comics before we went in was like, here's what you need to know about this place. That like a few months into doing the show, I did it for I think 10 it was like 9 years or something. We did this show at this place, Jack's Twin Bar. So every joke I ever said has been seen by this audience, right? And the at one point a couple months in, they put up a sign that said no backwards hats and no plain white tank tops. And I took a Sharpie and wrote in that AKA no Puerto Ricans. And that sign stayed up until it just like fell off on its own. Like it died of natural causes. Like the tape just could not adhere any longer due to the elements. But that's what this place is. And so it was great to see all those people again, and just like just so much insane shit has happened on there. I'll tell some of the stories during the show, but one of the funny things that happened there was that this dude Frank is his wife. I think it's his wife posted that it was her 30th birthday, and it was like, wait a second, she's been at every one of these shows. Like, how the fuck did this happen? And he's like, oh yeah, that place was a bastion of underage drinking. So apparently there was 15-year-olds getting boozy at my shows back then. So yeah, good times. But a funny thing there's well, and also I was super grateful that a lot of people saw me post about it and came from pretty far. There's these two people that follow me, and they're like super commenters, and I'm so thankful that they do that. I love hearing from people. And afterwards they were like, so is this what we consider like your crowd? And it was really funny because they actually first saw me in a Cat Williams crowd, in Atlantic City, and that motherfucker was rough, dude. I mean, rough. And they're they are of a different demographic, and and it just made me realize it was like, yeah, I like not having a crowd that all looks like me and thinks like me. You know what I mean? And like that's kind of what I want in this show, is that I want people that disagree with me to laugh at some shit that I'm saying, or maybe change somebody's mind a little bit about some stuff. Like the O&A guys or the Kumia guys that follow me. I mean, they are batshit right wing, a lot of them, but they respect that I go on there and fucking get into it with Anthony sometimes, who's may or may not have been canceled by the time this this podcast goes up. But yeah, I mean, there's this kind of like a populism to comedy that I think has really gotten lost over the years. And I've always thought that like the best way to display what I do and like what my stand-up is would be to go from, because I've had this happen before, that like on the same night I've headlined a show in North Philly, had to race and went to Princeton and did almost the same. Yeah, did a wheelie the whole time. But no, like just like connecting with the same material with completely different people, I think is something that only comedy really has the power to do. Like it would be really fucking hard to get a room, like groups as diverse as that, to agree, right? But you could probably get them to laugh. And I don't know. There's something kind of magical about that to me.
I almost prefer a crowd against me, like politically, or that thinks the exact opposite. I think that's where you're going to get the biggest laughs. Like, have you ever done a college?
Yeah.
I did like a real liberal arts school, real liberal. And like the joke half the time was me apologizing for the joke I just made, but we could all laugh at how ridiculous that was. You know what I mean? Like the fact that we disagreed made everything funnier.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't even do colleges anymore just because they're fucking cesspit. But well, and actually, while I'm kind of on it, that the that show in Atlantic City that those folks saw me at was hilarious because I sussed it out. Like I'm from down around there, and uh, I would always walk around the arena before the show started, and I had seen really, really long traffic lines on the way in and just caught a really bad vibe walking around. And I was like, yo, this could like really turn on somebody here. Like this could be ugly. And the first two, so the host went up and did moderately okay. And then the next guy went up, and it was this big, enormous fat guy, and he lasted maybe 5 minutes, and then somebody in the back was like, "Yo, I want to boo. You want to boo?" And they're like, "Yeah, I can boo." And you just hear two boos at the same time, and then there's always this thing that happens that like that's the ping. There's the call, and then the response, and just like it wasn't all 5,000, but 2,000 people started booing, just fucking crushed the guy. And he keeps trying to like go on. And he was talking about Applewood bacon the whole time. Like it just didn't. But the thing about Applewood bacon, so while that's happening, I was sitting there with Nathan McIntosh, and he's hitting me like this. He's like, they're booing. And, and then the girl that's up next, she's like, they're actually booing people. I was like, yeah, this is Jersey, bitch, they boo. She went up and she was supposed to do like 15, and she did like 7 minutes and like got off super rattled. Like the crowd was just like being polite. But me and Nathan are sitting there like, this is great, because like I've been around long enough that I knew all I had to do was get laughs and not get booed, and I'm going to be a hero in that situation. That was one of the many times that during that cat tour. I think it was like a 60 city tour, and I think like 55 openers got booed or something like that. It was insane. We used to bet on it of how long it would take before somebody got nuked. But so she got off like super like staggered, and I went up, and literally the first I just Bernie Mac'd him. Literally the first thing I said was, I ain't afraid of you motherfuckers, and just went in, and it was like super fun. And then like I did 20 minutes, like had fun with it. I get off stage, and 10 minutes later the fat guy comes over to me and goes, so tell me, how did it go? I was like, good, dude. Why? He's like, I took a nap after my set, and I'm feeling much better now. I was like, you just slept after thousands of people booed your dick off? Like, what are you doing, man? How are you like, I mean, if I would not have slept for 6 months if I just had the experience that guy had. I have been booed by thousands of people before at the same time, which I'll save for another one. Remind me to tell that story sometime. It's circuitously, it's actually how I wound up on the cat tour in a very, very indirect way. But yeah, okay. So that was that. And the other news of the weekend that I'm really happy about was that I finally got to audition at the Comedy Cellar, which is kind of considered like the Yankee Stadium of comedy, and it went fantastic, and I'm working there now. So thanks to yeah, I got a whole bunch of messages from people. So thank you very much for that. Thanks, dude. But the whole thing made me think of yeah, like just so going from the from Gloucester City to the Comedy Cellar, right? Is very much an analog to the first show that I ever did with Kat was in Philly, and it was at the Leah Center for like 7,000 people. And but I wasn't getting paid that much, and it just so happened that I already had something booked like later that night in North Philly, and went from having a great show with Kat and then kicking the living fuck out of this place that was the biggest fire hazard you've ever seen. I mean, narrow hallways, clearly not a union electrician, if you know what I mean, and a room filled with BBWs that would have trampled each other at the first sign of danger. I mean, just breaking fucking ankles. But it kind of reminded me of like a theory that I've always had, which is that the best stuff, the best performances happen at shitholes, right? Like the like fucking jazz, blues, like blues started in the Delta, in the Mississippi Delta. Fucking electric guitar first got it played in shacks where people, it was like poor people went to get tipsy, let loose, forget about life. So like just plug that shit in. And so there's just always been something about that like my comedy career started out in that type of place, and I'm really grateful for that. And I started out in black comedy rooms, and it was because I didn't have a car. And at the time in Philly, there was the downtown club, was the Laugh House, and then there was a club in the Burbs which I couldn't get to. So I just started walking down to the Laugh House, and I kept getting booked on more and more of these shows. And like the hardest thing to do when I first got to New York was not being able to just make fun of the room for like the first 5 minutes that I was on stage. There's not like a sparking, arcing wire like dangling in front of your face or some shit like that. It's like, oh, I'm at Caroline's and it's all these well-dressed people and nobody looks like they just got out of jail and nobody fucking fell asleep with a 40 in their hand. But it reminded me of there's a song Little Room by the White Stripes, that if you were going to play us off with something, Bobby, that's the one to play us off with. Sitting in a little room, you're working on something good, but if it's really good, you're going to need a bigger room. All right, so also part of the weekend breakdown was that that Lisa, my girl, got me a massage as a celebration present. And she was sick all week, but so she got me that. And I agreed to it very quickly without asking any questions. And his name was Dante. He had very, very hairy forearms. He used them liberally during the massage, Bobby. Liberally. It was just like I didn't think I was homophobic, but man, it just so very hairy, so very hairy. Because I always ask for deep pressure. So yeah, I'm just getting this fucking hair massage, right? And I was just so hyper aware just mentally the whole time, I'm just keeping track of where this dude's dick has to be at this point, right? Like, all right, if he's going like this, where's that dick, dude? And, but what made it even worse, this motherfucker, was that he was breathing like he was getting a deep tissue massage. Like he was breathing through it the whole time, just.
Oh no.
With the occasional like, dude, are you hand coming? How are you doing? There's all these grunts and shit, like, bro. It was top 3 worst massages I've ever had in my life. Do you hear that car exploding outside?
Thankfully, no. What's
No,
going on?
okay, no, it's just a very loud horn.
Is there a Best Buy nearby? If they're rioting, go get us stuff.
Who's riding?
I'm saying if they're blowing up cars and rioting, hit the Best Buy.
Oh, okay.
Use some new
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah. Well, apparently the easiest car to steal is a Kia. Have you heard about that? That you just
With the USBs?
Yeah, you just stick a USB in it. You can fucking started in Milwaukee and has caught on because of TikTok. But
The happiest people about that are Kia owners because then they can get a new car.
yeah. Well, dude, the funniest car phenomenon was in Iceland in 2007, 2008 during the economic downturn. They thought that they thought there was some kind of issue with Range Rovers, that they were like really afraid that it was dangerous, and because they were exploding all over the country. And it turned out that people just got them at these high finance or like these high APR loans, and they were just exploding them they were just blowing them up. like like dozens and dozens of Icelandic people just nuked their Range Rover.
Hey, you're in one of those bad loans, right? We have this crazy idea. We're all just going to say it explodes.
Yeah. No credit, bad credit, fucked up credit. We're going to blow your car up and be like, that bitch never existed. But so that was that was my 3rd worst massage that I've ever had. 2nd worst was a Groupon. And it was a Dominican lady that like rented a room in it was like clearly like a Medicaid scam of a chiropractor's office, and it was all nails. It was just deep tissue nail massage. Like I can breathe through pretty much anything, but after like 10 minutes, I was finally like, your nails are killing me. She goes, I know, right? That's so long. Like, yeah, thanks, lady. At least you get it. It was so brutal, and I knew my back was so fucked up, and I immediately got on the phone with my girlfriend at the time. I was like, look, my back is scratched to the living fuck. I swear to you, this was a massage. Look at the time. I will show you the massage fucking appointment. Like, I got to find the picture of it somewhere. It was crazy. It looked like I just railed somebody's brains out.
Oh, no.
But worst massage ever. I have to thank my boy Lucas Connolly, my former co-host from War Stories podcast. So Lucas is he's somewhere on the spectrum that he can't possibly tell you where on the spectrum he is, but what he does know is that the only thing that keeps him in the present is by getting brutal massages. And he had told me this for like a couple of years, and I always wanted to know like how, because I'm a deep tissue guy, so I was like, how hard can they go? And he always gets them in Chinatown, and it was perfect timing that I had taken my phone back to get repaired. And I was like, I've got like 2 hours. What am I going to do? So I go to Chinatown. It doesn't have a sign. It's one of these things that it's like, you have to go down these steps. If you see the TD Bank, you've gone too far type thing. And I walk down like just from the street there's no door that you have to go through. And next thing you know, I'm like in a hallway and it smells like smoke. There's all kinds of like Chinese yelling going on. And I walked past a like dialysis operation, and some lady's walking out of there with a mop bucket. And I get all the way to the end of this hallway, and I turn around. It's just the mop bucket lady, and she's like, "Massage." It's yeah, and she like just slams the bucket down and goes like this into the dialysis room thing, right? But like I just see a sliver through the door of where all this yelling is coming from, and it's clearly an illegal Chinese casino where everybody is smoking. Like you're playing like Pai Gow or something, just throwing money around, just fucking ripping butts. And I go into this place. Well, first of all, this lady this was the ugliest woman I've ever seen in my life. She was like there was like her hair was almost matted dirty, and she was so it was like Chinese with a mullet, but like matted. And like imagine if Mac's mom from Always Sunny was a Chinese lady with a mullet. That's her. Right. So have to go past, there's this tiny little office where it looks like, I think people are on dialysis. They're hooked up to some kind of fucking machines. There's like 6 of them all crowded around, and it's just a bead curtain, right? And they got the massage table with cloth towels laid down. Nice. Right. And it was literally just toilet paper on the mask thing. It was just like fucking, they made a little rectangle of toilet paper. For $10, I got a 1-hour massage, but I opted for the tiger cream or something, which was an extra $2. Dude, this old Chinese lady fucked me up. That like it was that right there, just digging that in, or the elbow, but like every sensitive part that you've got, like inside the elbow, like punching that, then shaking the living fuck out of it. Punch, shake, 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 shake. She punched me 100 times during this. It was just mean. And but also there's smoke coming through. We're right next to the Chinese casino. There's smoke coming through this fucking thing. There's smoke coming from the dialysis people. And the whole time, also, whoever's behind the counter is running a phone scam of like telling people that they got their bank information, and they need their identification number to make sure that it's the right one. So it's like, dude, they were running like 5 scams at once while kicking the living fuck out of me. And I go to Lucas, and I was like, dude, that was the worst experience of my life. He's like, oh yeah, she's a little too rough, but the other one, she's pretty good. And also, you overpaid. You should be able to get it should be $8 for the hour, and then 2 for the fucking. I can say honestly, it's the only massage that I've ever gotten from a chick that there wasn't even a whisper of a boner. Didn't even think about trying to wiggle over for the happy. But all right, let's get into our topics for the week, huh? Where are we time wise, by the way? I didn't check what time we started.
We are a half hour in.
Holy shit!
Time flies.
Been talking about nothing this whole time.
I will say my big experience with Lucas is he taught me if you smoke crack, you can't overdose on fentanyl.
Oh yeah,
he's very smart.
You mean that like if you're overdosing, then to smoke crack as a way to get out of it?
That might be, but no, like the way you make crack, it burns off fentanyl. So like you can't get fentanyl in your crack, you can get it in your cocaine though.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Like I know somebody that was
chemistry behind it. Like he's that level of on the spectrum that he understands chemistry.
Well, fentanyl just burns. That makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe I'm the one on the spectrum. My bad.
Right. No, we welcome that around here. The I know somebody that was overdosing on heroin the first time they ever tried it at a crack house, and somebody just blew a huge hit of crack into their mouth and it woke them up, and then they just like threw him into a taxi and told him to go to the hospital. So thank you, benevolent crackhead, for saving my friend's life. But Tom Brady might
Crackhead.
be getting in, huh? No,
Crackhead.
yeah, obvious segue here. Known crackhead Tom Brady is possibly getting into stand-up comedy, which, my God, let this happen. The pandemic, it fucked us out of what's his face, that McConaughey was talking about doing stand-up before this started. Tom Brady to chase stand-up comedy dream after delaying Fox Sports. Uh, the guys from around the locker room said that he does a great Gronk impression and a really good Boston accent. My goodness, I want to see how far that's going to carry your boy if he gets on stage. Oh, I want this. I mean, talk about a guy who's got a relatable life and the foibles that everybody can talk about. What could he possibly like? Oh, my model wife that I left another model for because I got her pregnant while she was pregnant. Oh man, I mean, I love watching people bomb trying stand up. You can take that off, but yeah, it's one of my favorite things is watching celebrities try to get out of their lane and into mine. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? But the greatest one ever was Brian Pumper, the porn star, which, I mean, feel free to pull him up, I suppose. One of the biggest morons that I've ever actually seen in person. So he was on a Cypher Sounds Hot 97 show back in the day, and he in the morning he went on the air and talked about running a train on Lawrence Fishburne's daughter, and apparently it pissed off a whole bunch of people. And then he shows up to this show, which was a great show, and I mean, the dude is an absolute meathead. He's okay. So that's exactly what he was wearing. He's wearing the shitty wife beater, and he's got like a Mr. T level of fake diamonds on. Like that's not silver. Those are diamonds right there. Those are supposed to be diamonds. That would be $30 million worth of diamonds if they were real. Pull them all. So he goes out with no plan other than like like yeah, what's up, y'all heard? I fucked Lawrence Fishburne's daughter. What's up, bitch? You trying to fuck? And it's a room full of black women that just boo the living shit out of this dude. And he's so dumb that literally the only thing that he could do was start flexing. Like he literally just fucking just showed him the tries and shit. And we're in the back like, show him your dick, dude. Show him your fucking dick. Like, if he could just pull the ultimate porn star move and just get rock hard in front of hundreds of booing people, like, you'd have to gotta respect that. But so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what old Tom does for us in the world of stand-up comedy. And honestly, he's probably going to pass me immediately if he can just if he can hold the mic the right way. I will be bumped from every show that I'm ever on. But here's another fun one, Bobby. Your girl, former officer Megan Hall, the Tennessee cop that was getting gangbanged by the entire police force, she filed a lawsuit claiming that she was groomed by her officers. Yeah. So The former Tennessee police officer who was forced off the department is in disgrace after it was discovered she slept with over 60% of the force, has filed an equal employment opportunity commission complaint against the city she once protected. Yeah, there's a third-party investigation revealed that Davis potentially violated federal law by not reporting sexual misconduct. Davis was the former officer also claims that the chief of police department, Chip Davis, was condoning such grooming. Dude, there needs to be a final stance on this, which is that you can't groom a 30-year-old woman. It's insane, dude. Like, there's this thing where women have, like, it's like at what point do you have agency over yourself, right? That, like, they want it both ways. I'm turning into some weird fucking men's rights guy here, but it's like, it's equal treatment, equal everything. Yes, yes, yes. But then when the first thing goes wrong, oh, I was groomed or I was coerced into this. What tactics did they use to groom you? Right. So this is perfect that she's saying that she was groomed into it by just her fellow officers who somehow made them, coerced her into doing this. And also, grooming, isn't that supposed to be like over years and years and like getting you ready so you don't tell anybody, that kind of thing? None of this was here. And so there's another one. There's another article on that same site. Officer Hall cracked during the investigation when asked about her husband walking in on a threesome, transcript reveals. Give me a second to find this. So during the interview, okay. Outside of Larry Holiday and my questions about Sergeant Powell, is there anybody else that you have been involved with? Hall asks. No, my husband, but she says, okay, so I have multiple reports of you and PMAG, some other guy, multiple times, your house, a three-way with his wife, the interviewer says. As she goes, a three-way with his wife? That your husband walked in and got very angry about? The interviewer elaborated. At this point in the interview, she began to cry and dodged the question. She went on to say she cries when she's frustrated. So even at this point in this investigation, is that she's still turned the move for girls is their bullying move is crying, right? Like, when all else fails, she's caught in a lie again in the middle of this thing because she's fucking the whole department. And now her husband's walking it on. So, yeah, how did they groom her into having a threesome with another chick that her husband walked in on? Get the fuck out of here. It's so insane, dude. Like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but there's just there's no personal accountability at all in these kind of situations, right?
Yeah, it's everybody else's fault but your own.
Yeah.
I actually heard something about this story. The husband was mad because she banged 60% of the department, and they had 3/5 compromise. So as long as she banged less than 3/5, he was going to be okay with it.
Can't tell if you're being serious or not.
It's a 3/5 compromise joke. That's all.
Gotcha. Okay, I see what you did there. Possibly cutting that out.
Yeah, it's definitely better when I explain it.
All right. At the risk of going off the rails here, I want to talk about. I want to get into something that's a lot more serious, and I consume a pretty insane amount of news. I can probably drive most people crazy talking about, in some kind of detail about the news. And like I said, if I watch stuff that I disagree with, and I do it to see where both sides are coming from all the time. And like I think that the thing that really gets overlooked in American politics is that the big divide is not left versus right. It's fake. It's absolutely fake. The real divide is rich versus poor, right? And the biggest kind of scam that that Republicans ever convinced lower class and middle class people is that they are going to be able to become rich, right? Like there's this thing where poor whites constantly vote against their own interests, and so do poor blacks, constantly voting against their own interests. But it's because, in the case of poor whites, it's like, I might become upper class, right? What if I was upper class? That wouldn't be fair if we tax the rich. That's not fair. So no, we don't have to do that. And then the biggest thing that liberals ever pulled off was convincing poor people and middle class people that the politicians, were not themselves the elite, right? So Republicans are like, you can become one of us one day. And Democrats are like, no, we're one of you. Everything else other than that is bullshit. It's not red versus blue. It's ultra wealthy versus the rest of us. And there's a few things every once in a while. There's some kind of scandal that comes out that really illuminates that. And the two we're going to kind of talk about right now is like Epstein and East Palestine. They do kind of rhyme. Huh. Oh my God, bro. Is that an anagram? Is East Palestine? Does he fucking spell Epstein, bro? Boo. But, and I'm definitely going to dig in more to Epstein stuff over some coming episodes. I think I'm going to have a buddy of mine on that was pretty integral to the investigation, actually, which crazy story. But the thing with both of these, the reason that I'm drawing Epstein in with the Palestine thing is that both of those stories are perfect examples of each side pointing at the other side just because they happen to be holding the bag when this fucking bag of shit blows up, right? But each of them are equally involved. They're all contributing to this corrosion and erosion of the system around them to benefit the rich. So with Epstein, it's like, look, everybody loves to talk about Clinton being on the plane 22 times, which is wild. You have to say that is wild, right? And none of these girls have ever said, they've actually all explicitly said that they did not ever have sexual contact with Clinton. But go on, you go to the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, brother. Right? But the most fascinating part of the Epstein thing to me is how he got his start. Do you know how he got his start, Bobby?
I do not.
Okay. It was he got hired. He was a Coney Island kid who was a college dropout, and he got hired by Donald Barr to work at the Dalton School, the most prestigious school in, like, basically most prestigious prep school in New York City. What's interesting about Donald Barr is that he's former OSS, and the OSS, it was the predecessor to the CIA. And there's a thing, like, one of their kind of slogans is that you never retire, right? Those guys, once they retire, they're always collecting new assets. So immediately there was complaints from students to parents, and this is in the 70s. They're complaining that this guy was inappropriate, and he's wearing his shirts all loose and shit like that. And Uh, he basically, I mean, there's a bunch of other color that I'm gonna bring in eventually. Yeah, there's our guy. Here's old Donald Barr. He gets hired away from there to why can't I think of the name? If you didn't just put that up there, I knew the name. Brown. Why can't I think Brown? I'm fucking this up. So, but he winds up getting hired to an investment banking company because he's a math genius, but nobody ever knew what he did, right? And he went around New York saying that he helped people recover money. And are you still there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's farted out on us for a second. So yeah, so from the Dalton School, he gets into the investment banking world. Nobody knows how or why. And he eventually gets hired by Les Wexner, gets power of attorney over Les Wexner, even though nobody knows why, doesn't know what his company actually does. And from the 80s and 90s, he's obviously clearly operating internationally with some of the richest people in the world, and also has access to Clinton's White House. He took people to the White House, to private shit at the White House. That's confirmed. And Clinton also showed up to dinners hosted by Ghislaine at his place in New York. That stuff's all confirmed by staff, right? So, but as involved as he was with Clinton, he was arrested in 2006 during the Bush administration, and they sat on charges forever. And in 2008, he was finally given this super sweetheart deal when he was told that the Alexander Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney in Florida, was told that he belonged to intelligence. Right, that was what he heard from them, and he got like 15 months, but it was like he only had to sleep in the jail. The door wasn't locked. He was able to go back to his place in Palm Beach during the day. Like, it was this insane deal. But that happened, that full arc was during, I mean, three Republican presidents and two Democratic presidents, right? That's by no means a one-sided thing. But to me, the thing, well, and also that the biggest names that actually kind of like got thrown overboard by this thing and like actually went down from it were very conservative hedge fund owners, right? Like fucking Leon Black from Apollo gave $150 million to Epstein for some reason. But here's the mind-blowing thing of the whole thing is that the person who decided that the investigation had gone as far as it possibly could, and that there wasn't going to be any further investigation into whether it was a suicide or not, even though his hyoid bone was broken, which only happens when somebody gets their neck broken when they're strangled, and the fact that the cameras didn't work and the blah 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 blah, all these crazy things that happened, was William S. Barr, son of Donald Barr.
Jesus.
Right. So if you have any concept of this being anything other than the elites versus us, get fucked. All right. And the Palestinian rail worker thing, or the railroad, is the same way. That, first of all, the rail workers have been saying this for over 20 years, that something like this was going to happen. And first and foremost, shame on Biden. Absolutely, fuck you, Joe Biden, for not going there yet. Amtrak Joe hasn't gone there. And look, by no means am I any kind of Republican. I'm sure if you go into my my tweets, I've got some shit that would really piss off some Trump supporters. But imagine what the press would do if Trump was in office and hadn't gone there yet. Imagine what they would do, right? Like the Bush Katrina thing, right? He got eviscerated because he only flew over the Katrina wreckage, and then I mean he broed it up and was like, "Good job, Brownie," but which I mean that guy was a walking soundbite that was begging for it. But imagine what would happen if that was the case, if it was the other way around, right? The thing that's just like so crazy with this disaster is that rail workers, it was like 4 or 5 months ago, were trying to go on a strike, and they are the only group of people that's not allowed to strike without presidential approval. Right. And Amtrak Joe fucking shoved it down their throat. He shoved this deal down their throat. And they weren't trying to get more money. Right. And that's the corporations always paint it like, oh, they're trying to bleed us dry. They want more money, this and that. They posted in 2020 to 22, they posted like a $3 billion surplus in profits, and none of it went back into the rails and into their, into their systems. They just paid dividends out to their shareholders. And what these guys were trying to get was paid sick days and longer inspection times, right? So they had one paid sick day a year, and they would get fined if they and it was because everything's so over planned now. And these dudes, they also have to, like, sometimes they might have to meet a train somewhere, and they have to pay their own gas to go meet that train, but they might be out for like 2 weeks at a time because they're just riding the rail and taking care of this thing as it goes. So what they got out of the deal, what Biden helped them get, was 3 more paid sick days. And that was basically it, right? But the other thing that they're trying to get is, because they're just, they say they're just getting like ground into dust, is that it used to be that they had 2 guys. Every car that got inspected, it was 2 workers, not guys, but it's guys. 2 workers had 3 minutes to inspect each car. It's now 1 worker has 90 seconds inside and out to inspect a rail car. So that's 1 guy doing 4 times the work. It's like, there's just no way. And these things don't have to be. They've tried over the years. Obama's supposedly tried to get some stuff through. They passed a little bit of something, but right before it got through, it got clawed back. And they were trying to have a rule in place where like they had to register and like put the more toxic chemicals in a certain kind of car. And the reason this thing went up was because it overheat, like the axles on that car overheated, and they couldn't stop it in time because the brakes are also from the Civil War. It's the same kind of brakes they had in the fucking Civil War. And that wasn't even one of the things these guys were trying to get. And like, supposedly that was another thing that got stripped out when Obama did or it wasn't even Obama, when it was pushed through, when they were trying to pass some kind of bill, but it all just gets stripped out every time. It's the rich versus the fucking poor, right? Obama could have done something about it. Biden could have done something about it. Trump could have done something about it. He did definitely claw back a lot of the progress that they were making. Like, that does have to be said, but that brings us to, just skip over to The View, Bobby.
They would ever vote for him for somebody who, by the way, he placed someone with deep ties to the chemical industry in charge of the EPA's Chemical Safety Office. That's who you voted for in that district. Donald Trump.
Dude, first of all, for anybody to take their cues from Joy Behar, but like, she's saying she was literally blaming it on that whole segment started with like, these poor people, the people of of East Palestine. Everybody feels bad for them. Donald Trump, that's who to blame. You voted for this. What's the difference between that and that psycho preacher that, from Colorado, where the fuck he was from, that was saying that Hurricane Harvey was sent to execute the gays, right? And dumbass Stacey Dash, I think she said something like the forest fires and climate change is because of the homosexual agenda or something shit like that. What's the difference between that? But there's no blowback ever for when some crazy bitch basically blames people for fucking, getting destroyed, their entire lives destroyed. And it's some kind of shitty point that she gets to put up. It just drives me fucking crazy, man. Like,
that's the opposite of American politics, like holding out resources because people are of different opinion than you. Like,
yeah,
that's
and
the opposite of what we're supposed to be.
Right. Well, and also the cleanup for that thing, like even though the company immediately took care of it by blowing it up. They either dumped it in the river or fucking blew it up, which, that never backfires. That's what that mushroom cloud shit was, from when they just decided unilaterally to blow it up. But of what remains, they're taking it 15 miles away to down the road, because that's where that's where toxic material gets sent to, is just 15 miles away. So it's like, this place has already been an absolute dumping ground. And now it's like, 45,000 animals died like in the last 2 weeks. But that's what you voted for.
That river, they just got cleaned up. Like, that's the river that used to be on fire due to chemical pollution constantly. And they had this big effort in Ohio to clean up the river, get it back to normal. And then it became a place where you could fish and eat again. And now it's back to being on fire, essentially.
Yeah, I'm not fishing out of that motherfucker before. I used to see dudes fish out of the Schuylkill River all the time.
Right? What are you
thinking? Dude, because I've spent thousands of hours on the Schuylkill. I've seen some mutant catfish jump in there. Seriously, 4 or 5 footers.
You can see 3 Mile Island from my backyard, and people fish on the river that runs right next to it. It's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, that explains a lot about you, Bobby.
I don't
know. But yeah, so I just want to tie that, everything that I've been talking about already. So look, where are we at time-wise, by the way?
We are like an hour 2.
Are we really? Holy shit.
You did it, man.
No, but what there's 2 other things that I want to talk about that just tie in my point about all this stuff of just, it's the rich versus the poor, and we're all somebody's rubes, all of us. I've been a rube before, you've been a rube, like we've all been taken and all been called up and shit at some point. Actually, we don't even have to play this link, but there's a very funny thing that happened this past week, that in this defamation case against that it's Dominion versus basically every fucking body, that they got the text released from Rupert Murdoch. Well, no, Murdoch actually had to go and testify. That Hannity, Tucker, all of these guys were like, they've never believed the Stop the Steal shit from the very jump. They haven't believed it, and there's something in there that's like that they're just there we are. Rupert responded to Ryan's email. Thanks, Paul. Wake up call for Hannity, who has been privately disgusted by Trump for weeks, but was scared to lose viewers. So, like, So that's one side of it, right? And then on the other side, this shit with that very quietly, the New York Times acknowledged that that COVID might have been a lab leak. Very quietly. Like, I know it might. This is after years of basically saying anybody that said it might have come from a lab and it wasn't just a natural occurrence is racist. And then suddenly now there's still four of the like 16 or 17 intelligence offices say that it was natural. The other 12 or 13 say that it came from a lab, right? And the fact the wet market idea, if I was more professional, I would have prepared it. But the wet market that they say that it came from in Wuhan was directly next to the labs. Directly. It's where the people from the labs shopped for their gross, wet, weird Chinese groceries. But and the problem with it is that what's his face? The lab leak idea started with Trump, who was calling it Kung Flu. At the same time, there was thugs in New York City were slapping Asians on the train, right? And so the whole thing just got lumped together that a possible real source of something that killed millions of people, questioning that was racist. Right? And it's like there's never an apology, there's never a back down from it. And it's getting all these fucking people wound up just about it and calling each other racist when it was true, right? Like maybe that's the thing that's so fucking annoying about Trump was that he was right about some stuff. And like, I don't disagree with, there was quite a bit of policy stuff that was like just made sense. Like, oh, America first. That's a good policy. But when it's America first and let's do it and let's make it racist, yeah, it's not great. It's not great, pal. It's not good. Not good what you're doing there. But here's the thing that I want to show you of so we're getting out of here in like 5 kids. All right. I keep over preparing for these things. I got another half hour worth of shit. Let's face it, there's not enough money on the meter because you fuckers aren't paying me yet. How do you figure that out? Let's get some Patreon, huh? Throw your boys some ducats.
Yeah, we'll get
that. All right. AI for autocrats. Generative AI could pull this up, Bobby. Generative AI could be an authoritarian breakthrough in brainwashing.
It's here for you. I just can't put it on screen right now.
I got it. In 2019, China's Xi Jinping demanded just that when he ordered his party state to leverage AI to comprehensively increase the ability of the Chinese Communist Party to mold Chinese public opinion. Russia's Vladimir Putin has similarly doubled down on AI-enabled propaganda in the wake of his Ukraine invasion, including a fake video of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky calling for Ukrainians to surrender. These efforts are buttressed by a dizzying array of Chinese and Russian agencies tasked with thought control, cultivating a competitive ecosystem of digital propaganda tools underwritten by multi-billion-dollar budgets each year. China and Russia are, in other words, fertile ground for generative AI to usher in a historic breakthrough in brainwashing, a recipe for more international catastrophes, greater human rights abuses, and further entrenched despotism. As China refines and exports its techno-authoritarianism, would-be tyrants the world over are likely to cash in on the propaganda revolution. And the thing that's breathtaking about this to me is that this is written, it's published in The Hill, which is a 100% biased publication, without any hint of irony that we are also under an authoritarian press regime that is going to be enabled by AI to completely run over any other kind of ideas. Like there's not a fucking war on dissent, on public opinion, no matter what it is, right? Like that's not already had. We went over last week that there's going to be we've got the left and the right already have their shitty AIs that are going to completely rewrite the internet, right? And the same people that were telling people to learn to code, they're going to be out of jobs because the AI is going to do the coding. The copywriting is happening from AI. Like 10% of tech workforces have already been laid off. It's going to be another 20%. Copywriters are all going to be toast.
Copy
But,
editors, even.
Yeah, exactly. But, it's authoritarian when these other governments are doing it. It's wild, dude. And with that, well, so just because I've been talking about the poor, put a pin in that for 1 minute, that I do want to talk about, even though it's going to be tough out there with AI taking everybody's job, there's one job that the machines will never take over. And that, of course, is getting the plasma sucked out of your human body in exchange for cash. Bobby, if you would. There's a thriving new business that's popping up all over America, and it's modeled on the Chinese system that was specifically around the ghettos of China. And it was in like the late 90s, and it was giving paltry money to Chinese people and getting their plasma and then selling it on the world market. The downside of that was that thousands of people got HIV because they just kind of mixed all the plasma up and didn't actually test. Look, mistakes were made, but now it's come to America. That's right. And like El Paso and fucking Flint, Michigan, and Detroit, and like Tulsa, all these very blighted areas. Can you pull that thing up?
Yeah, it's up.
Oh, it's up.
I just can't show you anything.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, is that SpongeBob fucking donate plasma for money any creepier? Do you know what? Can you tell what that thing actually is, Bobby?
If I had to guess, it looks like it's a debit card.
It's a debit card, because that's how easy they make it for you to get your plasma sucked out. And apparently it's like way, way worse than giving blood.
Yeah.
Some people, it gives them migraines. Some people just have to sleep for a few hours. Some people like have a vicious hangover the next day, but you get $50 to $75. And the more you weigh, the more you can give. That's the real upshot. So you're in big luck here, Bobby boy.
I actually am quite familiar with this situation.
Really?
A guy I worked with at Dick's paid his rent doing this. And the way it worked is you would get $50. You could donate twice a week. Mm-hmm. So he would get $50 each week, and then you would get $50 for everybody else you would refer. So
they Ponzi it.
Yeah, and he would just get all these new hires at Dick's and be like, "Hey, you want to make a quick $50? Go do this." They don't know how terrible it is.
Yeah.
The one upside though, you get hammered easily.
I was going to say that this is how I know about it, is that I know alcoholics that they would get all their booze money, and they would intentionally, like, these dudes were like homeless, and they would intentionally not eat on plasma day and then just take a 40 to the face, and you're fucked. So look, if there's any copywriters that are just replaced by a despotic AI system and you don't want to learn how to weld, sell your plasma, fucko. With that, I want to take us out, because I was so moved by all this AI talk that I actually asked ChatGPT to write my obituary. And here we go. It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of Richie Redding on date. Thank God it did not put a fucking date in there. If it put a date there, dude, I'm fucking cocking the shotty. I'm just watching the door. I'm not leaving for shit. It's just turned into the Ring. Richie was a beloved son, brother, friend, and a comedian. And his loss is felt deeply by all who knew him. Born in Year, Richie grew up in hometown, where he developed his love of comedy and performing. He honed his craft over the years, performing in clubs and theaters across the country and becoming a well-known name in the comedy community. Well, doesn't know everything. Yeah. Richie was known for his sharp wit, quick comebacks, and infectious humor, and his performances always left audiences in stitches. He had a unique ability to find humor in even the most mundane situations, and his jokes and stories could make anyone laugh. In addition to his comedy career, Richie was a kind and generous person who was always willing to help others. He had a big, warm heart and a warm smile, and he will be deeply missed by all who knew him. Richie is survived by his parents' names, his sibling name, and countless friends and fans. His memory will live on through his many performances, his humor, and the joy he brought to so many people's lives. Rest in peace, Richie. You will be greatly missed, but never forgotten. And you brought this on yourself. What? Oh. Sorry, Joy Behar fucking slipped into the chat GPT there. God damn it, that's creepy. And well, folks, thank you so much for watching. Oh, thank you, Bobby, for hitting that button at an inopportune time, but not during my obituary. Like I said, please like, share, comment, your direct messages. Really, just put them in your pee hole. Please help us get the word out about the show, because I'm Richie Redding, and that's really real. Thanks.
Well, you're in your little room, and you're working on something good.